There are some crimes so unimaginable that searching for the graphic details online will leave even the most hardened true crime fans shaken. There are some pretty sadistic killers out there who did the unthinkable. In this video, we take a look at 7 such true crime stories. Before we begin, please note that this video has some pretty graphic content, so heed advice and skip the video now if you're sensitive to such content. Number 7. Murder of Sylvia Likens. 50 years later, Indiana is still shaken by the cruel murder of Sylvia Likens. In 1965, police officers found the body of 16-year-old Likens laid on a filthy mattress. She was covered in more than 150 burns and cuts. It was clear at first that the young girl had starved to death as she was little more than skin and bone. Later, it was found that she died of a brain hemorrhage and malnutrition. Mother of 7 kids, Gertrude Baniszewski, was arrested and charged with first-degree murder. Likens' parents had paid Baniszewski $20 a week to take care of her and their other daughter, Jenny. Instead, Baniszewski allowed her own children to beat Likens and force her to eat feces. Attorney Natty Bumppo said, "A lot of people have compared this to Lord of the Flies. That was just a bunch of uncontrolled children. In this case, they had an adult supervising what they were doing. It wasn't children going wild, it was children doing what they were told." It was pretty sadistic on the part of the woman who was paid to care for another child. Number 6. Armin Mai. The internet was still fairly new in 2001, but there were quite a few websites that catered to people's weird fetishes back then. Armin Mai from Germany posted an advert on the cannibalism fetish website, The Cannibal Cafe, looking for a well-built 18 to 30-year-old to be slaughtered and then consumed. Many people replied to the advert, while all of them got cold feet, apart from Bernd Jürgen Armando Grande. Throughout his childhood, Mai fantasized that if he were to eat someone, they would be with him forever, so he would never be lonely again. The videotape Mai made of himself dismembering Grande is stomach-turning to say the least. Mai amputated the victim's penis, and they both attempted to eat it, but it was too chewy. Grande then took 20 sleeping pills to kill himself, but this was not a success, and he slowly bled out from the amputation. Mai murdered Grande by slicing his throat and consumed the remains over a period of 10 months. He was sentenced to life imprisonment after stating to a psychiatrist that his fantasies of devouring people had not subsided. Number 5. Albert Fish's letter. Albert Fish was a serial killer who preyed on young children in the state of New York. The sadistic child torturer and murderer bragged that he had children in every state. In 1936, he was executed for the murders of 10-year-old Grace Budd, 9-year-old Frances McDonald, and 4-year-old Billy Gaffney. The details of the murders are only for those with a strong stomach, as Fish also spoke in detail how he also cannibalized the remains. Fish also sent a twisted letter to the mother of Grace Budd just to add to her suffering. He wrote to her, "I grabbed her and she said she would tell her mama. First I stripped her naked. How she did kick, bite, and scratch. I choked her to death, then cut her in small pieces so I could take my meat to my rooms, cook it, and eat it. How sweet and tender her little ass was roasted in the oven. It took me 9 days to eat the entire body." He was remembered as one of the evilest serial killers in history. Number 4. Mysterious Pool of Blood. Returning to their posts after a mellow and relaxing school holiday, teachers at Riverwood Primary School in Sydney, Southwest were expecting to have a lazy first day back. Nothing could have prepared them for what they stumbled upon when they first entered the school's cubby house that day. However, on the floor was a pool of blood, later established to be human and being more than a liter's worth. Police noted that whoever's blood it was would have needed extensive medical treatment because of the extreme blood loss. Despite an extensive search of the surrounding and extending areas, no victim was found. There was also no blood splatter or trail leading to or from the cubby. The lack of a victim was extremely strange, considering the school was enclosed with a 2-meter high barbed wire fence and it would have been impossible for the injured person to scale it. Tests later showed that the victim was male. The case remains unsolved to this day. Number 3. Gibson Paul. A murder on Valentine's Day. A day of love is so weird, isn't it? In 2011, however, a breakup between Gibson Paul and then girlfriend Tamika Peterson led to her untimely death. That Valentine's evening, Peterson left the apartment she shared with Paul and got into a car with friends. Paul shot at the vehicle, which contained Tamika Peterson, a female driver, a female passenger, and a 3-year-old child. A bullet grazed the female passenger. Tamika Peterson was shot 5 times and died on the scene. Paul acted as his own attorney for the start of the trial, later requesting a public defender. The state prosecutors originally wanted to pursue the death penalty, but decided to drop that option. Paul was sentenced to life in prison plus 35 years for the murder. Number 2. Unstoppable Stalker. Having a stalker is probably one of the scariest things you can have happen to you. Imagine a person turning your cell phone into a device which he can spy on you and track your every move while threatening to kill you. 3 families in Washington had to endure this nightmare in 2007 with an aggressive person phoning them at all hours and threatening to kill their children, grandparents, and even pets. They would receive voicemails that played recordings of their conversations with the local police. The person would describe what they were wearing or what they were busy doing at any given time. Police were powerless to do anything as their investigations turned up no leads as to who the stalker could be. They even suspected the families of making the entire thing up. However, electronic surveillance experts agree that phones can be operated remotely, which means the reports could very well be true. Whether this was a prankster that had gone too far or a true stalker that meant harm to the families will probably never be established. The identity of the stalker remains unknown to this day. Number 1. Smiley Face Murders. Over the span of 2 decades, around 350 young men drowned in lakes and other bodies of water in Midwestern American states. It became known that police officers had come across graffiti in the form of smiley faces near at least 12 locations where drownings occurred. Several people, including New York detectives Kevin Gannon and Anthony Duarte, believed these drownings to be murders committed by either a lone serial killer or a group of serial killers. Their theory is that the men were most likely drugged after being abducted and then murdered before being disposed of by dumping them in lakes and rivers. The detectives also believe that these serial killers include both men and women. To this day, no one knows why these victims had smiley faces drawn next to their bodies or whether it was just one serial killer involved in the case. Well, those were some creepy and pretty mysterious crimes from around the world. Do share with us your creepy true crime stories down below. Thanks for watching.